should be any moment now. Cue intro. Hi guys, this is Daniel Alexander Hanna here on the Supernatural Show, the show that is not intended for entertainment purposes. Today, going to be another good example of that because as you can see on your screen, there's been a recent report to come out because I keep checking up on what they're saying about this 3-eye atlas thing. And so I just did a little Google search, and well, right up front, where they want everybody to see it, anybody who runs this search, right up front is a little article by New York Post, and it says, actually, must have it more than, oh, here's another one, is 3-eye atlas is carrying ingredients for life, NASA finds. Life? What kind of life? And so they're pushing it from different angles as well. Interstellar Comet 3I Atlas, sent by advanced civilizations to seed life on Earth. Okay. And one of those articles says this: is 3I Atlas a friendly gardener or a serial killer? And that's from Avi Loeb. And Avi Loeb, if you read this article, you go down, it tells you all kind of things, we'll call it, and shows you just some pretty pictures and stuff, that they created on their AI system probably. And then if you look at the link that goes directly to Avi Loeb's scientific paper that he released, you can see here that he's named it galactic panspermia. Not a pandemonic like the one we had, still kind of going on, I guess, if you believe it. And then it's pan and then sperm. Very interesting choice of words. Panspermia. Some of you will remember what I've talked about when it comes to comets and sperm. And some of you also remember that I and Shannon and, the whole show, I don't know if I think Roxy was on there too, when we talked about the concept that they were going to one day come and start talking and claiming that there was a virus that was, or a planned demonic across the whole world that come from a comet. We made shows on it explaining this, didn't we, Shannon?
That is correct. We sure did.
Mm-hmm. Well, you reckon about 6 months or so ago, something like that?
Yeah, about then.
Yeah. Now, how in the world would we have any clue that they were later going to come out saying these kind of things? Yeah, I'll let you figure out how. And it ain't because they tell us, that's for sure. But it's amazing the things that you can be led to if you pray and ask for it. And so we're going to be talking about this today. We've got Shannon here, as you can hear, with us again today as one of the Supernatural Show co-hosts. And so thank you for being here today, Shannon.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
And we also have Miss Kim here with us today. She's over here behind me. I hear some buttons being pushed, so she's doing something. And so thank you for being here too, Miss Kim. Welcome. And Roxy, as you see, her placeholder is missing today. And it's an interesting little quinkadink with that, because I didn't know if Shannon was going to make it or not, because she said she had to go to the orthodontist, the dentist, right? And Roxy then pops up and says that she has a toothache and that she really don't feel like talking, which I can get. When you got a toothache, you really don't feel like talking. But she is in the comments, I'm sure. But it's strange because both of them have this dental thing going on, and I had a toothache yesterday. And it's almost won't act up today, but so far it hasn't. I just ain't going to try to do anything to make it go, but all three of us having toothaches. So I have a silly question. How many of you guys out there are having toothaches, like in the last couple of days? Just curious, because I tend to pay more attention to things these days than I used to. The wind direction can change and I'll pay attention. That's how paying attention I am. Let's see here. How do we want to do this? We're going to do this. We're going to dig into this and read a fair amount of it. And we're also going to, at the end of the show today, we're going to read a supernatural story that was submitted to the Supernatural Show by Charlie. And because we want to encourage you guys to submit your testimonies. That's what a story is. If it's true, it's a testimony. And we want you to submit your stories to us. And you can easily do that. Well, actually, you got a couple different ways you can do it. One is just email tellmystory@TheSupernatural.Show. That's an email address, of course. TellMyStory@TheSupernatural.Show. Not .com, not anything else. It's .show, Supernatural.Show. Tell my story. Or you can also go on the website as well and do that as well, which I'll show you here. You come on the website, there's a little drop down right up here. Get dropping down, and it says submit story. You go to that page and you can submit all of it, and you can connect any images you want, or a link to maybe a video or anything you want, and submit it through the website as well. And you don't have to be a member in order to submit your story. You can just go there and do that. So TheSupernatural.Show, or tell my story at TheSupernatural.Show. All right, now, so we're getting ready. We're going to dive into this, Shannon, about this whole, I look at these words like gardener, okay? Now, if nobody, and I know you have, Shannon, and I'm sure some of you listening have heard me refer to talking about like the Garden of Eden. In the garden, when it comes to human beings, the garden is the woman, okay? And the act of sexual intercourse is planting a seed in the garden. That's literally what it is, okay? So it's interesting that he's talking about panspermia, and then he's choosing to use the words a friendly gardener. So is he planting seeds? That's what he's referring to here. And then he goes on up to his actual article and calling it panspermia, because, and I know some of you're going to say, what in the world is this nut talking about? But comets, like if I pull up, like, let's do this. And I know some of you have seen this before, but you need to see it if you haven't. And that is this. Let's show you real quick. You see these images of these this comet? Yeah, right? Like a green image looking comet. Well, the thing is, well, it's not what it looks like. It is and it isn't. If you pull up this one, for instance, here's another one. Got all these nice little comet images, right? See them? This isn't comets, okay? These are what's called a comet essay. A comet essay is a technique used to measure DNA damage and repair individual cells. What it is it's sperm. They're looking at sperm underneath a microscope. According to what they're saying, that's what this is. So this is not a comet. This is sperm. Yeah. So you can see the ironic nature of, the friendly gardener, or the panspermia. And it's intentional because they know that comets are the essence of a deity that is cruising through the heavens, okay? For whatever godly or ungodly reasons, depending on the situation, I suppose. But yeah. But first, before I do that, guys, before we dive into this, because I am looking forward to talking to you, I need to remind y'all guys, or maybe tell you for the first time, some of you I'm sure, about the foundation. And you have to understand that all the words that I am speaking in this, what I'm getting ready to play, it's all symbolic, okay? It's not like the forming of a foundation legally and doing all that kind of stuff. And this is specifically for y'all guys, the body of Christ that is out there, okay? The chosen ones that are listening. that this message is for you in helping us bring together the body of Christ, which is, in my version and vision, it is to be able to grow a great big network and speak in all tongues and nations all around the world. So with that said, let's watch this real quick, and then we will jump into galactic panspermia. Throughout all history of mankind, man has built anything he could dream of. Achievements that seemed impossible then, and even now. Sometimes against extreme odds and adversities. Yet, if man believes hard enough and has faith in his hands and in his mind, he can move mountains. He can achieve anything. Yet, not alone. He must have others that believe in his dream. Others to help build the impossible. Some will always say, you can't do that. Not now, not here. Yet, with faith and perseverance, that man will find his people. He will find those too that are brave enough to dare to cut against the grain, to swim against the current of the waters, to build what others will mock and gnash their teeth as they see it rising from the dust of the earth. As they see the foundation go in, brick by brick, it shall be laid. Sweat, tears, and a few drips of blood mixed in with the dust and the clay. Another man once had such a dream. Jesus Christ had just that kind of dream. To speak and deliver a message to the entire world. Not just in the time that he walked this land, but a message that would echo throughout lands and times, landing upon our ears even today. How many did not believe in his dream? How many thought that he was pretending to be something he was not? How many wanted him to fail? Yet, he did not fail. Why? He gathered a core group of people that believed in him and believed in his words, works, and the fruits thereof. He built a solid foundation of supporters, and upon that foundation, he raised a temple built without hands, called the body of Christ. We at the Supernatural.Show network know that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness in this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And yes, we have just such a dream to build, and it all starts with you. The foundation, shod with the gospel of peace. The placing of the symbolic bricks, blocks, and cornerstones, each one held symbolically in place by great belief and faith that what is being built here is righteous and faithful. Once the foundation is laid, brick by each of you, then we will raise the symbolic walls, girt about with the truth, and then we will all begin to thrive successfully. We will then place the trusses above our heads, in which we have trust and faith that their strength will hold back the fiery darts of the wicked and withstand the evil day, having done all to stand. From the laying of the first bricks, blocks, and cornerstones held in place by the chosen ones, and during the raising of the walls to laying of the trusses, we shall empower the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. We shall open our mouths boldly and make known the spirit of the gospel. If you trust in us and we trust in you, the gospel of truth will be heard across all of the lands and upon all of the ears. This dream will be built without hands, just as Christ proclaimed, For we strive to build this dream upon words of truth, words of righteousness, bringing together the great truth seekers and speakers from across the world, standing finally together as the prophesied body of Christ. Now stand, pick up and place thy brick, block, or cornerstone, and hold it fast in place with faith, knowing that thou will maintain the strength to hold it in its righteous place, knowing that you are part of the supernatural dream, to build a network and work shoulder to shoulder until we all reach our lofty goals, to let every ear that can hear to hear. We strive to have truth tellers speaking in every tongue, in every language, and every day and night. One unified voice speaking peace and truth across one unified network, the Supernatural.Show network. It's time. No more division. No more, there's nothing I can do. No more, I am alone. It's time to take each of our places in destiny. Welcome to the body of Christ. Place your foundation brick, block, or cornerstone now at TheSupernatural.Show. So yes, we want to build a network of people all around the world, and under the umbrella of the Supernatural.Show network, which I and we are trying to head up, we want to have and grow a great empire of voices speaking the truth and speaking the word of God. But we're asking for your support. We're asking you to come and place a brick, block, or stone, a symbolic brick, block, or stone, and support what we are trying to do. Not just what we are trying to do, what we are going to do. But we are asking for your support. You do that simply by coming to the Supernatural.Show website, clicking on this image here. This is the little video you just watched just now. Clicking on here where it says learn more, and it brings you to the page that once again has that video. But if you come down here, you can choose any one of these options. And once you do that, it's going to ask you simply, just like joining any other website, it's going to ask you to sign up and check your email, and it'll bring you immediately back to the checkout area where you can place your brick, block, or cornerstone. So with that said, let's get back to this panspermia stuff. Why don't you say, Shannon?
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Not sure where I should start exactly, but I guess I can just kind of, I could just overview what they're saying, but let's see, how far down does this go? It's not too far. I've already read it myself, but let's look at the actual scientific report. Okay, this is basically setting up the scenario kind of the friendly gardener or the serial killer. Now, this is a guy, Avi Loeb. He is supposed to be a Harvard League kind of dude that's supposed to know what he's talking about and supposed to not be writing fantasy. Okay. He is with the Institute of Theory and Computation with Harvard University. So they're supposed to know what they're talking about. So let's read a little bit about what he is talking about, and jump in anytime, Shannon, if you have a thought. So this is called galactic panspermia. And okay, I'll just read it. We present an analytical model to estimate the total number of rocky or icy objects that could be captured by planetary systems within the Milky Way galaxy and result in panspermia should they harbor life. We estimate the capture rate of objects ejected from planetary systems over the entire phase space as well as time. Our final expression for the capture rate depends on the velocity, dispersion, as well as the characteristic biological survival time and the size of the captured object. We further take into account the number of stars that an interstellar object traverses, as well as the scale, height, and length of the Milky Way's disk. The likelihood of galactic panspermia is strongly dependent upon the survival lifetime of the putative organisms, as well as the velocity of the transporter velocities between 10 and 100 kilometers per second to the one negative power, result in the highest probabilities. However, given large enough survival lifetimes, even hypervelocity objects traveling at over 1,000 kilometers per second have a significant chance of capture, thereby increasing the likelihood of panspermia. Thus, we show that panspermia is not exclusively regulated to solar system scales, and the entire Milky Way could potentially be exchanging biotic, meaning alive, components across vast distances. So, what do you get from that, Shannon?
Well, this subject matter has kind of been out for a long time in your entertainment, like Prometheus and all of that stuff. And, back when I was all into the whole Galactic Federation of Light nonsense, they spoke about this in the beginning, like they were basically doing this, and that's how we came about, was because of a
panspermia event
kind
of thing.
Exactly. But what is interesting about this, right, is there have been a lot of movies and a lot of shows that have been surrounded by this subject matter. I mean, one of the most infamous that everyone knows is the second comeback of X-Files, and at the very end, the closing of that series, that's this whole subject matter of a whole panspermia event that just wreaks havoc and turns people into something else and blah blah blah. Well, there is now a show out called Pluribus, and this show is exactly like that. It's actually this, V iris comes from a signal that supposedly had been going off for who knows thousands of years, but they picked it up and figured it out that it was DNA changing V's. And they put it in rats, which then gets into humans. And then everybody except for 13 people in the whole world end up turning into a hive mind. But there are 13 people who are immune to it, and they can't figure out why. But it's got like Soylent Green innuendos. It's crazy wacky. This show just came out, because that's what I'm thinking of. It's like, man, is this going to turn everyone into some hive mind? Is this activating like the evil stuff they've put in the pokies? Is this all part of that? And then they come out with what, like a month or so ago, saying that there are people that they have found with a quote unquote alien DNA. So, the timing of this, so very interesting.
And I know when I first told people that comments were basically you have to understand and really think deeply about what the word in the image of means, or similar to, or, you have to forget everything that NASA has taught you and realize that comets, as I showed you a while ago, with the galactic comet-looking imagery that they're getting from doing comet essays, which is the study of sperm, okay, and then realize, well, what I said is pretty straightforward. I said that I think that comets are celestial sperm, the essence of something flying through the heavens, okay? And I knew when I said it, it sounded insane, but I also knew that I was right. Now, do I believe this story that they're telling us? No. But they're building up to an event that will be related to this kind of a thing. It's, like I said before, me, Shannon, and Roxy, Miss Kim, all of us, I don't know if Dan was here at that point or not when we started. I remember talking with Dan about comets and sperm and being celestial, symbolic, in the image of sperm, because if you look up at it, that's what it looks like. It's got that tail that whips backwards and forwards on occasion. And to me, when you want to understand what the heavens are and what this world is, you have to look at yourself. You have to look at everything about your body, which is why, for instance, the background of the Supernatural Show is a full solar halo, which is the sun, and the sun being the pupil of an eye, when you rarely get to see a full solar halo. And that's just one example. But here's another example. Now they're talking about this panspermia stuff, and you have like this site here, earth.com, putting out what is panspermia, and they're showing imagery of sperm flying through the sky. It's just it's a little bit vindicating for me a bit, I'd have to admit, but still I realize it's very hard to wrap your mind around, because I'm still busy wrapping my mind around it. So, question here, shall we read some more of this? And some of it's going to sound like I'm reading out of an encyclopedia written by ultimately an idiot, but someone thinks they're smart, and all they're doing is they're planting the seeds, you might say, no pun intended. They're planting the seeds in order to build this storyline, because I think that there's a good possibility that the next, pan thing is going to be based on something to do with this, which we've been saying this for 6 to 9 months, somewhere in there, probably longer, but we'll just say that 6 to 9 months that they were going to do this. So what do you think? Should I read a little bit more, Shannon?
I think it would be good to get the full spectrum of at least what they're saying.
Yeah. And some of this will hurt your brain to listen to, because it hurts my brain to read it. Because understand that I don't believe what I'm reading, but what I'm doing is I'm showing you what their scientific sales pitch is, okay? So let's see if we can do this. Okay, so introduction. Life is self-serving, with the ultimate aim arguably being survival and consequently propagation. The idea that life can self-propagate from one planet to another, panspermia, has been around for at least thousands of years. In an address to British Society for the Advancement of Science in 1871, Lord Kelvin suggested that life could propagate by traveling meteorites. More than a century later, it was hypothesized that some acrondrites, something like that, were of Martian origin. Let's see. Subsequent studies confirmed that the Martian origin of such meteorites, and today over 100 have been identified. An impactor of approximately 1 kilometer can accelerate debris to above the Martian escape velocity. Such an impact may result in post-shock temperatures of approximately 1300 Kelvin, I guess, and shock pressure as large as 55 GPa. However, this is not necessarily the case. Now, understand, as I'm reading this, I don't believe for a second that the planets exist the way that they're talking about, like a rock could hit Mars and eject like an impact from what they call an asteroid, and it impacts Mars and throws dust out into space, and it floats around and lands on the Earth, or that kind of scenario. The world, if you want to know what the world is, go look in the mirror at your eye very, very closely. You may not understand it, but you're looking at where we live. And God, our Father, He put it right in front of our face, so we couldn't miss it. However, we've been raised since children to believe nonsense. However, this is not necessarily the case, and studies show that some ejecta are not heated much above 375 K, and thus microorganisms can survive such impacts and be ejected into space. In fact, throughout the history of the solar system, rock fragments were ejected from Mars with temperatures not exceeding 373 Kelvin. Really? That is amazing how they know that. The aforementioned mechanism can, in principle, spread life across planets. However, there has been much debate about the destructiveness of ultraviolet radiation, particularly on bacteria. For example, Crick and Orgel argued that microorganisms are likely to perish in space and that panspermia could only be achieved in artificial spacecraft via so-called directed panspermia. However, some strains of bacteria are extremely resistant to radiation. Pavlo et al. Argued that some radio-resistant bacteria exhibit such extreme tolerances to UV and ionizing radiation that their origin is likely Mars. Yeah, isn't that amazing? Let's go up here. I've got to go back to the top and move over to read the next part. Okay. Shown that spores of the bacteria survive in space for 6 years. Even non-radio resistant bacteria can survive in space so long as they are shielded from UV radiation. Such shielding can be as thin as a few centimeters. Moreover, bacteria have a survival mechanism where a colony surrounds itself with a biofilm that greatly increases protection against UV. And I'm reading this and I'm thinking, and I'm the conspiracy theorist? Really? I mean, it is just absolutely amazing what these guys come up with their story that they're selling. Anyways, with a biofilm that greatly increases protection against UV and other harmful radiation, with the overwhelming evidence that at least some microorganisms can survive ejection. I mean, I'm listening and reading all these words, and they're describing, okay, and I'm not being salacious, or vulgar in any way. I'm just pointing out. It's talking about where a colony, if they're talking about panspermia, like sperm, right? Where a colony of sperms, for instance, surrounds itself with a biofilm, kind of like, do I have to say that, describe it any more specifically, like when a man, and greatly increases protection against, things that might be against it, so it can get to doing its job, which is making a baby, maybe, right? And then it goes on down here and says that the organisms can survive ejection and travel in space. We ask ourselves, is intergalactic panspermia viable? After a rigorous analysis that is described in Section 2, we estimate the total number of captured objects by planetary systems in the Milky Way and determine that there is a parameter space that allows the galaxy to be saturated with life-bearing objects. We discuss this as well as further implications in searching for signatures of panspermia in Section 3.
This just reminds me that the science community really truly is religious and occultic, because it's even written out like a ritual, having to do with the sex word. And this is a scientific document, and it's really bizarre because it is a ritual. It's like writing out a ritual.
Even like the word asteroids, which we're going to read here in just a minute. I mean, really? I mean, it's so sexually laden in the words. If you think about it and look at it like we're doing, yeah, I mean, it is.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Had to interject.
No, please do. That's what you're here for. Interjections. All right, we'll read some more here. Let's see. I ain't at the bottom of the page, am I? No. Okay. Okay, so analytic model. We first construct a detailed analytical model to estimate the total number of captured objects, assuming that they traverse through regions of the Milky Way. By captured objects, we refer to entities with sizes. Entities. Another interesting interjection of a word there, entities, with sizes of less than or greater than. Is that less than or greater than? Anyways, 0.1 kilometers, which may include ice rocks objects such as asteroids, comets, or plantaseminols, I guess, and planets. The capture rate is dominated by binary star systems. We assume that the capture of interstellar objects per stellar encounter occurs via the standard theory of gravitational interaction with a stellar binary system. Note that capture in this context refers to only a temporary capture, since the mean residence time around a given star depends on the configuration of that planetary system. We estimate in something to see via the following. Okay, so we're going to the next page, which means I got to come back over here. I hope y'all guys understand why I'm reading this, and understand it gives you a glimpse into how these people think, and how they think things they actually know, but then they twist this and sell the public a vulgarized version of reality. And well, it's my job to fix it. What, Shannon?
Right. Well, and yeah, because it is a ritual. It's like this is an actual ritual. This paper, if that makes sense to you,
Mm-hmm.
they're casting spells on people reading this, which we're not
Mm-hmm.
doing. We are exposing
Yeah,
that
we're
right now.
exposing
This is
this.
why
Exactly.
we're reading it and clarifying that's what it is and what it's pertaining to. So just to
Mm-hmm.
throw that out there.
Yep. Yep, you're right. Let's see. Am I where I need to be? I think so, yes. Okay, the astrological journal letters, blah, blah, blah. Expression where FB denotes the fraction of extrasolar binaries and is taken to be around 0.4, whatever that is. N represents the capture rate of interstellar objects per binary system, whereas N is the number of stars spanned by the interstellar objects traveling. And to me, when I'm seeing this, I'm thinking about what's going on in a uterus, or in I'm thinking about the methods of a sexual act, actually. And because you can see it's laden in here all over it. But anyways, let's keep going before I sound too crazy, if it ain't already crazy enough. Is the number of stars spanned by the interstellar objects traveling with a relative velocity v over time, p. The term p is the biological survival factor, the fraction of microbial life that survives, meaning when it's saying this, it's basically saying the sperm survival rate, like a common essay, survives during the travel between stellar systems, and in principle can therefore take part in seeding the new planetary system with life. Lastly, F represents the velocity distribution of the interstellar objects in the local frame of the host star. The integral over V accounts for the velocity distribution of interstellar objects, owing to which NC serves as the ensemble averaged total number of captured objects in the galaxy. The integral over T occurs because the capture rate must be integrated over time to account for the total number of captured objects. And they're literally just referring to how much sperm makes its way to the right place, you might say. Yet they're not saying that, and yet they would never admit that. But symbolically, this is all symbolics as to how this is working and how they've written this, and ritualistic, obviously, too. It should be recognized at this stage that NC yields the number of captured objects over the Milky Way history as an upper bound on the number of objects that facilitate interplanetary panspermia, the reason being that not all of the temporary captured objects will actually take part in the interplanetary panspermia. So not all of the objects will take part. If you know what an object is, in this case, they're calling it a panspermia. Since they must be subjected to impacts and the ensuing ejecta must land on a planet with habitable conditions. And they're referring to a planet as being like a womb, you know. We cannot estimate this probability a priori, since it depends on the specific properties of the planetary system to which the object has been captured. The capture rate N can be computed as, and you can see their little formula they got, where NO is the number density of the interstellar objects, how many sperm, and AC is the capture cross section. We must now provide suitable expressions for NO and AC that are discussed below. The mathematical details for the capture cross-section AC were first worked out by Hedgie and can be expressed as follows. They give you their fantasy mathematical thing here. The cross-section A depends on not only on V, but also on the mass of the primary and secondary, as well as the orbital velocity of the bound object or bound orbit, and the semi-major axis of the binary system. If the object is captured into a barely bound object, this amounts to taking the limit VB 0 and yields, or 20 and yields ACA, whatever the rationale behind using VB instead of dropping it altogether is explained later. Although there is a wide range of mass distributions and periods for binary systems, the Alpha Centauri system is fairly typical, and thus it is apt to assume that the ensemble average value of AC is comparable to that of Alpha Centauri. Our basic qualitative. All right, we got to go back over here. Okay, what happened to my little slide button here? Come on. And yes, I know this is in a way boring as dirt. I get that. So it doesn't.
That's not exactly your fault, but
no. You gotta expose what you gotta expose and allow people to be able to see things for what they actually are and what game they're playing. Doing the best we can, folks. Results remain unaltered when A, M1, and M2 are changed. Numerical simulations indicate that the capture cross-section for the Jupiter-Sun binary is about an order of magnitude lower than the analytical estimate, and hence AC for the binary system can therefore be approximated by that formula there. This capture cross-section is about 5 orders of magnitude higher than the corresponding value of the Jupiter-Sun system. And you have to also understand that when they talk about Jupiter and the Sun, they look at them, and they are right in a way, but they look at them as deities, okay? As I've stated many times, the stars in the heavens are angels. If you're new here, I wonder what you're doing still here. But the stars are angels, and the lower stars like this, they are deities, like Jupiter. And, but they, like Jupiter, Saturn, they like worship these lower stars. It's like, like they call Jupiter and Saturn failed stars. I mean, they were maybe going to be stars, but they failed. Or did they fall?
And what is a star again, biblically? Just
biblically, a star is an angel. It says
an angel.
It says it clearly. I've shown it many times. It says it clearly that the stars are angels, and the lower stars like Jupiter, Saturn, those are the ones they worship. And so when we're reading all this, you have to kind of take that into account. Oh, I see Jeremiah C filled out a story submission. That's awesome, Jeremiah.
Yay.
Yeah, that's very cool. On the website, just done it. Popped up here and let me know. Go, Jeremiah. We'll be reading your story here real soon. Thank you for that submission.
So this reminds me of in Revelations where it talks about the end times would be as the days of Noah and the days of Lot. And what was going on in the days of Noah? Well, the fallen angels were genetically manipulating humans and creating Nephilim, right? So
You're right on the ball.
is this insinuating that we are back in the days of Enoch and Noah here?
That's exactly what's going on. Even if it doesn't come from the heavens, it's coming from man on the earth. And where do they get this technology and information from? They get it from the fallen themselves, using rituals and all kinds of things and technology. The building of AI. Who do you think you're really talking to when you're talking to that thing, or when you're submitting queries in it? Or there is deity behind some of these things. The AI itself, I still believe, is the literal beast out of the sea that stood with 1 foot on the water, 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on the sand. The sand is silica, and silica is what they make silicone out of, which is what computers are made out of. It's all there if you will take the time to look. But I know most of you don't have that kind of time, so I try to bring it to you, and I thank you for allowing me to do this. And we want to continue to grow this. That's why I'm asking y'all guys to place your block, place your brick, place your cornerstone, support this network so it can grow and we can continue to expand and tell the whole world the truth as best we possibly can. But we can't do it by ourselves. We need your help. Please consider placing a brick, block, or a cornerstone. And hold it fast, which simply means to make sure to make it a priority that funding is there and holds that brick in its place so that we can keep growing. No, we ain't trying to get rich. We're trying to grow a network. We're trying to build a symbolic body of Christ. I hope you understand. All right, let's read a little more, I guess. The quantity depends on the size R of the object. Really? Okay. We will assume that R equals 0.1 kilometer, with the lower bound being the rough size of the recently discovered interstellar object Oumuamua, which looked like a phallic, according to their claim anyways. On the other hand, for objects with a different minimum size, the cumulative size distribution function must be utilized to adjust NO accordingly. We will not explicitly introduce the R dependence henceforth to preserve simplicity in notation. Oh yeah, you've made it real simple here, except for the final expression. Although this size R equals 0.1 kilometers may appear to be on the lower side, we note that the erosion due to the dust and the interstellar medium and cosmic rays may affect only the uppermost few meters over a year time span. Thus, given sufficient shielding, it seems plausible that some organic matter, even if not life per se, could survive within an interstellar object of size 0.1 kilometer over your time scales. Even the transfer of dead organism or matter, dubbed necropanspermia, and
what?
Yeah.
What, you guys? Now we're bringing the necros in. This is wow.
Crazy.
Okay.
This is a scientific paper put out by a Harvard professor that is supposed to be the lead guy for Atlas 3I from Harvard. And reading this is more profane than anything I've talked about in a long time.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Even the transfer of dead organism or matter, dubbed necropanspermia and pseudopanspermia, respectively, could be advantageous insofar a biogenesis and nutrient supply is concerned. What?
What?
Yeah. I think there's way more deeper
I
meaning to what we just read there than even we know. It's
well, yeah,
saying
this is
the injection of dead material could be more advantage insofar as a biogenesis and nutrient supply. Whoa, okay.
I just can't. That goes right alongside that show I was telling you about, you guys.
Really? What was the name of the show again?
Yes. Pluribus.
Pluribus. Okay. Okay. Not necessarily we ain't recommend you guys could run and watch a certain thing or another.
No.
It's just saying some things, like there's things I watch and you would wonder, why is Daniel watching that? And it has nothing to do with trying to be entertained. I'm doing just what I'm doing right here.
Research.
I'm research, decoding the symbology and the hidden meaning behind this witchcraft that they're doing. All right.
And literally, this is 100% witchcraft. I mean, literally using that terminology, they're bringing necromancy into it now. It is like, yeah.
And like romance and
as a nutrient?
Mm-hmm.
As a nutrient? What in the French toast, you guys?
All right, so let's see. Show the number of Oumuamua-like objects is, 1015 PC-3. We have adopted this value as a fiduciary estimate. However, the actual number of life-bearing objects is unknown and could potentially be lower or higher by several orders of magnitude should future studies enable us to determine better constraints on the number of life-bearing objects. The updated value can be utilized in the subsequent formula. In particular, C22, any correction factor should be applied to the vertical axis of figure 1 accordingly. Another key assumption we have made is that the total number of density of objects available for capture is not only dependent on V. We have chosen this and that's a new one for me, since the velocity dependence of NO is not empirically constrained. It must be noted that choosing this and this or another monotonically decreasing function of V is not expected to affect our results significantly for blah 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 kilometers. However, in the regime 100 kilometers S-1, the number of captured objects in figure 1 will be lower accordingly. By substituting the above numbers in 2, we end up with the capture rate of that, supposedly. All right. Wow. Just crazy. Okay, this is a big graph that they've got in here talking about the survival rate of the sperm as it flies through space, apparently. And then let's go on down here. Why is it not in the same window? I think they changed their format. They did. Go down here. All right. I'm not going to torture y'all guys too much further with this, but I'm gonna read just a little bit further, and I'll share the link for this so you can do whatever you want to do with it. Taking it serious wouldn't be one of them, except for the fact realizing what they're doing here. Hopefully we're making it clear enough as to what's happening here. Next, we will model the velocity distribution of the objects in the local frame of the host binary system by means of Maxwellian, where the velocity dispersion is defined as where whatever 10 kilometers is the characteristic stellar component, and this thing is the typical dispersion for the objects at the point of their initial ejection from the host planetary system, changing the stellar dispersion 30 kilometers to reflect the value near the solar neighborhood, reduces the result by approximately an order of magnitude, but essentially little else is affected. The two dispersions add up, since the variance for the sum of two normally distributed variables is the, when they get done writing this, they must just lay back in their chair and just, well, I don't want to know what they do when they get done and lay back in their chair. But anyways, distributed variables is the individual sum of their respective variances. Note that that constitutes the free parameter of interest in our analysis. In the next item is the biological survival factor, P. It is a well-known fact that that most cells and unicellular organisms exhibit either exponential growth or decay. Thus, we shall assume that P, which represents the fraction of microbes that survive within the object over a timescale T, could be modeled by that formula, where T can be interpreted as the characteristic survival time. However, note that T does not represent the survival time for a single microorganism. Instead, it should be viewed as the typical survival time for the total group of stuff hosted within the interstellar object. And it is interesting. I'm going to say this. In this scenario, they're looking at the human body as like the not just the solar system, but like existence itself. I can feel that flavored into how they're reading it all here. Of course, they're talking about the sexual act, procreation, all of this. And they were talking about, acting like they're talking about the heavens, but I can tell they're talking about, of course, the human body in all of this. And yet they're shielding it with lies and deception, like they're talking about this thing flying through the heavens. And anyways, topic. Not really off topic, but anyways, let me just keep reading and shut up at the same time. This will depend on a wide range of properties, such as the size and shielding of the interstellar object, as well as the radiation and dehydration tolerances of the putative microbes themselves. For instance, based on laboratory experiments, it has been suggested that the fraction of D radiodurans that would survive with minimal shielding is 10 to the power 6 over a span of 10 to the power 6 year. Using these values in 8, we obtain fiducial value of T equals 10 to the 10th power year for extremophiles. Polyextremophiles. Now it almost sounds like this took on another flavor. We got some files in here. Like polyextremophiles, like the radiodurans. Since the estimate assumes only superficial shielding, it is conceivable that the value of T could be an order of magnitude higher, especially for the higher radio-resistant archaeon T gamma tolerance. However, in actuality, we do not know what are the possible values of T for extraterrestrial microbes. Thus, we shall leave T as another parameter in our analysis. The last factor that we wish to estimate is the number of stars in that the interstellar objects span for a given velocity and duration. This is estimated from this fantasy formula, where the first factor on the RHS is the local stellar density, and the second factor is the spatial volume element in the local radial and vertical coordinates on the galactic disk. We adopt the axis symmetric ansatz for n, where h is the scale height of the thin disk of the Milky Way, and 3L equals whatever is the disk scale length in equation 9. R equals V, RT, and Z, and VT, ZT, where V and Z are the radial and vertical components of the velocity. Although we have specified the lower integration limits to be R equals 0 equals Z, this can be easily generalized to other choices. After simplification, we can find that 9 can be expressed as this fantasy deal here. So again, there's a couple more pages to this, but if you want to read it, I'm going to well, you can find it easy, really. All you got to do is just Google 3i Atlas and look for this one that says a friendly visitor or a serial killer, okay? A Harvard scientist says, and then you can find this link. And it'll bring you, like, this is the article, and down here at the bottom, he has his link. Right down at the very bottom where he shows his fantastic Jewish profile. And here's the link right here. Oh, you can find that there. And then you can find this. Although I will share, let me see, what will I want to share? Let's just share this PDF address in the comments real quick. Just so in case somebody really wants to look at it, they can. I ain't necessarily recommending it, but I will share it. All right. All right, so that was quite the ride, I would say, and gives things to ponder about how they are presenting what they're doing. But the overall idea is they're saying that we've got this 3i Atlas comet, and it could be spreading a virus, because actually it goes specifically to those words. Hang on here, let me let's I want you to see that. It goes on down here. I think it's in the last page down here. Yeah. Let me do this and make it a little easier. Find in page. Virus. Right here. So it says, let's start right here. It says, thus also panspermia appears most likely to transfer bacteria and other microbes. It also may transfer more complex organisms, consequently viruses. Viruses will invariably be a part of panspermia for the following reasons. And it goes on talking about it, okay? So it goes through all of that profane witchcraft language to come down here and ultimately say that one of these comets, and we're talking about 3i Atlas, might just spread some viruses that could fall down through the air on Earth and cause a calamity. And yeah, we've been talking about that now for somewhere between 6 months and a year, that this was one of the scenarios that we felt like they may do. And looks like as of, when did this thing, I wonder if it says when this was produced. Probably somewhere. Actually, this was produced a little while back, this actual article. So, but they just now pushing it to this was put out 1 day ago. So there's probably more, let's see here. There's probably a lot more tied to this that we could look into. As a matter of fact, I'm sure there is. And unfortunately, I'm sure I will be looking into it. I can't reject all. You ain't getting no permission. Apparently not. Okay, I ain't going. All right, but we'll keep looking into this and seeing what they're doing and what they're saying. But at this point, I wanted to transition and read a supernatural story. I want to say thanks again to Jeremiah, I think it was, that submitted a story intro on the website a while ago while we were live. So thank you, Jeremiah, and we'll get your story looked at here probably today or tomorrow. All right, so we're going to read a story came in from Charlie W. And we encourage y'all guys to also submit, and you do that by submitting your story you can email it to tellmystory@TheSupernatural.Show, or you can go on the website itself and you can see the submissions button right here on the website at the top. Drops down, says submit story. You can submit it there. So let's read our supernatural story from Charlie. Hello, all. This was not my first supernatural event or my last, but it was a significant eye-opening encounter to my wife and I. The story was in 1993. My wife and I, decided to take our children on vacation to SeaWorld in Texas. They were so excited, all 4 of them. So I did as any good father would do and started preparing my truck for the trip. It was a 1987 Ford Bronco. Very low mileage and big. I put new brakes on all the way around, brand new tires, changed the oil, and just checked everything in the truck. It was in tip-top shape. So school was out for summer and our vacation was to begin. We both took 2 weeks from our jobs and did so almost every year to take kids somewhere they wanted to go. Anyway, we live in central Arkansas, so the trip was about a 12-hour drive to San Antonio, where we had hotel reservations for a week. We were on our way headed to Texas. It was nice, the kids were behaving, and the weather was great, almost perfect. Well, I thought it was, and that should have caused a little bit of concern because I know how that usually works out. LOL. The first few hours were great, and all was good until we crossed the Texas line. We were about 20 miles in, and boom, we had a flat. Brand new tires. No way. I was prepared for such a thing, so no biggie, right? I pulled over, and I'm telling you, as soon as I pulled over, there were 3 different vehicles of people stopping to help us. They were awesome. The people in Texas are super nice. I can contest to that firsthand. I had a new spare, so it didn't take long and we were going again. This is important because the tires on my truck were 35-inch AT tires, not cheap. The tire was destroyed, so I knew I had to stop and buy another one for a spare, even though they were $200, so you can imagine. Anyway, they would not take out an out-of-state check, so we had to use our cash. Make a long story short, a little shorter, I'll just say it wasn't over yet. We ended up having 3 flats, just going there, and every time it was the same thing. Instantly, people would pull over to help. The last time, a lady that had pulled over was talking to my wife, and she told her all the problems we had. The lady asked if she could pray over us for safety and to have no more problems. It worked, and God is good. Okay, we made it to the hotel, and all was great finally. We decided to take the kids to a real Mexican restaurant, so that's what we did. This is where it got interesting. We pulled up to the Mexican restaurant. It had a very large parking lot. There was only one other car, and it was parked at the door. I decided to park back out of the way, like 50 yards or more from the restaurant. Why, I don't have a clue, but I did. So we were getting ready to all get out, and all of a sudden, someone was knocking on my door window. I looked to my left, and all I could see was a waistline. So I rolled down my window. Remember, I said I had 35-inch tires. It also had a 4-inch lift, so the truck set up high. I rolled down my window, and this giant of a man leaned over, looked at me, and said, or asked, if we could help him with a little money. I looked at my wife, and she was already in her purse getting some money out. I have to say this, and I'm no racist, but the man was a old black man. When I looked back, which only took about 3 seconds, he was gone. I looked around, and he was nowhere to be seen. I got out of the truck and even looked under it. Nothing, no one, no human could have done that. He was gone. Instantly, I knew what had happened. We were just visited by an angel. I know it was just a test, and I know we passed it. A giant angel that had to have been over 7 feet tall. I hope to see him again one day. Who knows? Maybe I will. Bless you all, and may you all find peace in your life. And Charlie sent in another story too, but we'll read that on the next Supernatural show. So we're going to start doing that, is reading the stories, and encourage y'all guys to send in your stories about anything that's happened to you in your life, whether it be one thing or 10 things. Let it out. It helps other people learn, and it helps other people not feel crazy. It helps other people realize that these things happen to other people too. And there's nothing that you can write in here to me about that I'm going to think you're crazy. Nothing at all. Because trust me, I got stories that are crazy, but yet they're true. So I'm not going to think you're crazy, and I'm going to read your story, and I want to hear it. So please do send in your supernatural stories, or if it's just something that's paranormal, supernatural, whatever, I want to hear it. Right, Shannon?
Hey, so right, I might probably sound different, but I was trying to say something and my audio didn't work for any whatever reason, and it's not giving me my actual whatever technical issues. But out of nowhere, I was just gonna say I had a very similar experience with that angel, and the way he just disappeared. Like, there was just absolutely no way that any human could have just up and disappeared that quickly. And so I 100% believe that. 100%.
Yeah.
Because that's
I've had that happen too. Very, very similar things, where, it's normally in situations like you're kind of being tested, to see what choice you'll make. And then you turn around. The most recent one, I think I mentioned it one time, but it's very similar actually. I went in, I come out of this grocery store in town, and there was a black man that approached me and asked me if I had 25 cents. If I had 25 cents. And he was, I don't know how to describe it, but his skin was like, it didn't look like normal skin. It was like, I don't know how to describe it. It was just really weird looking. And he was,
I was just going to say, I can attest because the angel I saw, which didn't speak to me, and I was going to go up to him and talk to him and say, hey, you can pray inside, but something told me not to touch this man because it was, I don't know, maybe just too holy, or I wasn't supposed to interrupt his prayer. And he was praying like no one I've ever seen ever pray. And he was he looked very tall, but he was on his knees, and his hair was perfect. It was like this perfect spiral, almost like Roman emperor looking hair, and the coloring was perfect. Everything about him looked so beautiful and perfect. It was weird. Even his clothing was like, it was trying to be kind of modern, but it wasn't. If that makes any sense, but I just had to throw that out there. He did not look human to me.
Yeah,
he looked too perfect.
This guy didn't look human, but he didn't look perfect though. He looked, he was very, very weathered, in a way that's more than normal by quite a bit. But he asked me for a quarter, and so I can't remember what I gave him. I gave him like $10 or $20. I can't remember. But I gave it to him, and he wanted to shake my hand, and I shook his hand, and his hand felt like stone. The skin and everything. It wasn't that he gripped me hard. It was that his hand felt like stone. It was weird. And then I turned around and I started to walk off. And like 3 seconds later, I turned back. He was gone. There was nowhere in the parking lot.
Nowhere.
Yep, just gone. I'm like, whoa, okay. Well, at least I passed. Yep. Right. And I remember telling Miss Kim about it. She was there with me, but I don't know if she's seen him or not. But anyways, guys, we greatly appreciate y'all guys being here with us today. And hope you enjoyed today's show. The show that's not intended for entertainment purposes. I'm sure you get that by now. But I think we really showed you something important as to a little inside view on how they think, how they're operating, and what they're up to. At least one thing that they're up to. We hadn't mentioned yet that Super Dave and Super Mike were there. I apologize. Getting Supernatural crew members, that's not good. But I greatly appreciate y'all guys being here too with us as well in the comments. And I appreciate all of you, as a matter of fact, being here with us. And I know some days I show more comments than others, but it's kind of hard to do that when you're reading. But thank all y'all guys for being here. I see Snowball and Williams Wonderlust. And sounds like you met one too. Hey, how about write that in to us? It ain't that hard. Tell my story at TheSupernatural.Show. How about that, Williams Wonderlust? Can you email me? Take like 5 minutes, right? All right. Well, with that being said, all that being done, we're going to get out of here today, guys. We will be, what's your schedule, or your and Roxy's schedule like, assuming the tooth thing eases off tomorrow?
I believe it'll be oh gosh, I know it's 4:30 my time, so I think that's
4:30
I
your
don't I
time would be
yeah,
7:30 our time. 7:30 East
there you go.
Coast, 4:30 Pacific. And
And
they will,
I'm going to be on the road, so it's going to be interesting,
oh
but
boy.
it'll be
Which
fun.
channel is that going to be on? Is that on yours or on Rock's?
That's on the Roxy Files. I mean, I
Okay.
do believe we put it out on both of our
Okay.
channels either
Right.
way, but it's definitely Roxy's.
Yep. All right. And so they got that going on tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, I will be trying to come back in on the Logic Before Authority channel. I know I haven't done it the last few weeks. It's just simply because there's so much to do. And I'm the one main guy that knows how to do those certain things. So, but I will try to do a show on Wednesday. And we're going to go back and look at I think I was wanting to go back and look at the Testament of Solomon. And look at some of the interesting things in there about how he wrote, for instance, about the demons talking about how they flew through the sky and that the men below would think that the stars were falling from the heavens, when in fact it was the demons, the disembodied spirits, essence of the Nephilim. So we're going to look at that and a bunch of other things when it comes to that book. And I got a couple of other things, but I'm going to try to focus on one main thing on the show. Thanks, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Miss Kim. And thank y'all guys for being here. Y'all guys are ultimately the most important thing. The guys that are here listening, just watching, listening, because y'all guys are the foundation of what we're doing here. Without y'all guys, there would be no reason to do anything. So thank you for being here. And remember to please place your brick, block, or cornerstone. I love you. And we'll see you, if not sooner, I'll see you on Wednesday. Shannon will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.